So guys, the weather is getting colder and colder, so now is a perfect time to plant some pansies. They're going to give you blooms from fall through winter right into spring because they can handle the cold. If you have never been here before, my name is Marlene. Welcome everyone. Welcome to my home and garden channel. Now let's get to planting some pansies. So these are some pansies from a previous year that survived the winter, and this is them in the springtime, and boy, aren't they fabulous. And these plants typically grow in zones 3 to 8. In some cases, they may grow in growing zones 10 and 9. So there's a very wide range that they grow over. And I'm telling you guys, it is really, really worth the wait. So this is them, in the spring, but let's take a look at how tough they can be. These were some other ones one winter in my garden, and you can see the snow was on them, and once it melted, they pulled right through. There's so many different varieties that you can get in terms of colors in your garden center. You can get some with a different color in the center, some of them that look like little faces, and they're pretty inexpensive. You can get them in different sizes, 4-inch containers, larger ones, and the 6-pack. So there's something to suit every budget as far as pansies go. These are the ones that I got right here. I just love this color. I think it's so striking. I've used it quite a few times. These were for $1.98, and this is the 4-inch container, and I just love the little yellow spot in the center and the darker purple around it, and I think the yellow center picks up very well on those yellow ones right there. And I also have this as a go-between for both of them, where you have a little bit of blue to match in between those. And this is some Swiss chard right here. I'm going to try those, and this is what Swiss chard looks like. This was actually after a winter day in a city that I visited, and you can see they look gorgeous. These are probably the giant ones, so mine may not get as big as that, but they won't be too far from that. Just going to be a gorgeous combination of the Swiss chard and the pansies. This is the container that I have over here that I'm going to be using. These were some pentas that I had in here, and then back there we had some calabroca, and they actually came back some pink ones in the previous year, so I'm going to try these to see if these will also come back again. I'm going to go ahead and take out the scarecrows, and of course, just to show you the container, it's a pretty decent size. This is a 5-gallon container. We're going to be adding in some potting mix in it. I'm going to also be putting in some slow-release fertilizer along with that, because I am going to be reusing my soil. You can see what the slow-release fertilizer looks like, and it's good for a 6-month time frame. And of course, we have our watering can and our mulch that's going to be put in there as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and take the mulch off first. And I'm going to go ahead, I'll just put these in my raised bed at the back just to cover over some of the plants that are there as the weather is getting a little bit cooler. And the garden, those beds are going to go to rest. Instead of just dumping it, I'm going to go ahead and use it in that way. So I'm just, carefully taking these off from here. You can let me know what you do with your mulch, guys, like at the end of the season. Just going to go ahead and clear off all of them. So here I'm going in now and just taking out the calibraca. And it was a little bit dry under there, but enough for everything to hold together, so I didn't bother to go ahead and water it again. And it's gonna be fine. I know it's gonna come again because the pink one did last year. Over here now, I'm just going in and taking out the pentas, and boy, the pollinators love this plant so much. The only thing is that it's an annual, so this one is not gonna go back. So I'm just gonna have to go in and take it out right now. And it's pretty healthy, so I could put it in a compost pile, or just put it in the just trash it. Fortunately, these ones don't have seeds on them, so I'm not able to get any seeds from there that's gonna propagate. And of course, this is what the soil looks like, but I went in and I dug deep and made sure that everything was loose. And if you don't want to do all of that when you're reusing your soil, you can go ahead and get like the soil sieves or strainers like these, and I'll link them in the description box below, 1 or 2. We can get yours, but always check the reviews, guys, and make sure it's going to be working for you and your family. So there were just a few roots here and there that I went in and just lifted them out, looked to see if there is any like any big pieces of mulch in there. But I liked how it came out. Everything looked fine, so I was perfectly happy with it. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my slow release fertilizer here, and I use these on floors, not usually on my plants, because I tend to go more for compost to enrich the soil when I'm trying to plant veggies and so on. But for flowers, I will use these, and I use 2 tablespoons and just sprinkle them over throughout the area. And then once those were mixed in thoroughly, I went ahead and watered it. And of course, be sure that all of the soil is nice and fluffy if you're not able to sift it out. And I put enough in here just to make sure that it had a good soak to go in and just run right through. And then I left it for about 3 hours, and then I came back just to check it out to make sure that there were no dry spots in there because we don't want that to start. And it looked pretty fine to me, so I was quite pleased with it. But now I'm going to go ahead and put a top dressing of potting soil. And you can also mix in some potting soil as well too if you have enough. And you can do that and then add a layer on top, maybe about 2 inches or so, because when the roots are just being established, they want to have that potting soil with the extra nutrients on top that's easily accessible to them, and they'll go in and do that. Of course, I'm going to also add some of the fast release fertilizer, the liquid ones, further, but I'll discuss that further in the video. And what I usually do next is I just go ahead and line them out to make sure that, they fit the way I want before I even start, digging into those spots in my garden. And let me know, guys, if that's something that you do, if you go in and you kind of like place them first to figure out what goes where, and then you go in afterwards and start planting. I learned the hard way. Sometimes I don't do that, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I have some left over. What do I do with it? So I have to find another pot to put them in. So this is a Swiss chard right here, a 4-inch container as well. Same $1.98. What I love about this is that there are multiple roots on here. I think this one had about 3 or 4. And so I divided them out, and I'm just going to put them towards the back of the container because, as you can see, these are going to get taller as time goes by. And so, they need to be at the back so they can come up and come to their full potential. And I know they look a little bit floppy, but that's just kind of how they are to start. But, once you put the soil in and press a little bit, it kind of holds them up. And, as time goes by and they get watered and they get fed, then you're going to see how they bounce back and they look so, so wonderful. So I'm just putting these here. And these ones on the ends, these ones have a red stalk, but the smaller one that you're seeing to the bottom part there, that one is yellow. So it's going to be a little bit of variation back there too, which will be perfectly fine. This one's probably going to be a little bit smaller, but over time, maybe it'll get caught up or just be a smaller one in that spot, but we'll see. And if you're liking this video so far, be sure to give me a thumbs up. It sends a good message out so that, others will get to see it because it gets recommended to more people. And so I'm just going in and pressing in, to make sure that everything is covered with the soil, because if you just leave the soil from the garden center that was showing at the top, it tends to dry out more quickly. So you want the protection of the potting soil over it. So now I'm going in with the first pansy, and I was searching to see if it had multiple roots, but for some reason this year I'm not seeing that with the 4-inch containers. It's just one root. But the upside to that is that because it's larger, it's going to catch on a little bit quicker. So, you get your results, instantaneous results, a little bit quicker. Because sometimes you may find 2 or even 3 roots in there, but this year they were just one, the ones that I saw anyway. That's how they were. Maybe it might be different in your area or depending on who your supplier is. And then if I see like any blooms that are about, like spent blooms, I'll just go in and take them off so the plant can spend more energy putting out new blooms, for the season ahead. And this one right here now, this one is the blue one with a little yellow center. Such a cute little delicate color. And I really like it because I think it kind of like ties everything together, one darker, one yellow, one lighter, and they just all match so well. And these plants, I'm telling you, they are so tough. They just hold up so well in the winter. And, if it's really going to be very cold, like say you have a really, really cold snap, you can go ahead and give them a nice soak, usually before the cold weather comes in. And that kind of helps them along, when the ground is freezing over and they're just sitting there, they're perfectly fine. They have certain type of hormones inside of the leaves and the stems that help them to survive. And you always want to be sure that your roots look nice and white like this. That way they're healthy. If they look brown or they look black, then that's a suggestion that the plant is going under root rot conditions. So you may want to take those back and get some nicer ones. So I'm just going in and digging in here just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And so if you've never planted pansies before and you're considering it, what colors, you can leave me in the comments, what colors do you think you would get? I use this coloration quite often, the purple and the yellow. But I've done white before, I've done all purple before, so it's just a mix and match. I've done the white ones with little faces on there, I think they're also cute. And what I will say, guys, a nice surprise about pansies that sometimes gardeners don't realize until they check into it is that they smell sweet. Not usually when you just buy them for some reason from the garden center, you don't smell them much. But as the season progresses and you get like into winter, if you have warm days where you can actually go in and see them and smell them, then usually, guys, they smell so sweet. But the one that smells the sweetest that I have checked is the yellow ones that you're seeing to the left right there. I tell you, it smells like a very, very expensive perfume, and it's just always such a pleasant surprise. It's just the wonderful things that you discover as you garden, because even like daffodils, I love daffodils. It took me maybe about 2 years before I realized, after planting them and having them for a while, that they gave off a really, really sweet fragrance. Of course, there may be some varieties that don't have that, but it's always good to check it, once they're up and established, to see if they have it or not. It's just, like the plant just giving you so many benefits. And so once I put them in, I just go ahead and give them a nice soak. As they say, water is life. So we got to go in and make sure that they get a really good soak and that there are no dry pockets in there. And that's why it's always great to make sure your container has a hole in the bottom, because we don't want to have any root rots for the plants that you're putting in there either. And I usually try to time out. I try to plant them before it rains, and you'll see why further in the video. So I think these are getting a really good soak right here, and they should be good to go. And then once I have watered them, I always try to make sure that there's water that's running out from the bottom, so that way I know that it is successful and that everything went through really, really well. And usually I plant my plants in the late afternoon, early evening, so they can cool off overnight. And I just wanted to take a moment to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you've never done so before. I do lots of gardening topics, tips, and tours, and we have a wonderful community of gardeners here. And I always love to see your sweet comments that you leave, and anything I may have left, but I'm always happy to get that information, to share it, and also to learn, because we're all here to learn from each other. So right here now I'm putting in the mulch. And I chose brown mulch because it has become a favorite for me. The next one to that would be pine bark mulch, but everybody has their own preference. Some people prefer black mulch, some prefer cypress mulch or red one. It just depends. And sometimes it depends on what works with your color scheme. We just go in and, have it cover all the different areas to make sure that nothing is exposed. And this is going to be like a nice warm blanket for these flowers in the winter. And if you have warm snaps and you maybe have a weed or two trying to pop up here or there, this kind of helps to suppress them from coming in and taking over your container. So I'm just going in and filling out all the area around there. And it's so funny, the same mulch that keeps them warm in the winter is going to keep them cool as it warms up in the spring, because these typically don't make it through summer for me. Usually I have to pull them up like mid-spring, or sometimes very early summer. But usually they're looking not their best at that point, because they really are cool weather flowers. So the best thing for them to be is to be in the fall, the winter, and then through to spring. So here I made sure to soak them out, because I remember one year I didn't soak out the mulch afterwards, and the next day they flopped over because the mulch had wicked all the moisture away. So, just a word of warning. So this is a slow release fertilizer that I'm going to be, the quick release, pardon me, that I'm going to be using to water them. But this is going to be, maybe a week or two after I've planted them. Then we'll put that on there to make sure that they keep going. And guys, I just want to thank you for the various ways that you support my channel, whether it's by full watching the videos, sharing them with others that love gardening, whether it's by purchasing seasonal merchandise, or your channel membership. That truly means a lot and puts such a great input in what we do on this channel. I hope it has been very helpful to you, and I certainly appreciate you, and thanks for all that you do in advance. So I just wanted to show you what the rain does, guys. This is them the very next morning, because it rained in the night, and you can see how they are nice and perky. Any one of them that did not come up, it means that that flower is fading out, so it's probably not going to do that. And so it's just wonderful to go through all the seasons with these plants, or I should say 3 seasons with these plants. They're so versatile. I can't think of any other flower. Well, there are few of them that are actually able to do this, where they give you the fall season, they give you the winter, and they also give you the spring and then they fade out. And some people even get them to survive right through the summer. It just depends on where, your region and where they're located. They're maybe like in a hard shade area, they may hold up a little bit better. I just wanted to thank you so much for watching. I hope, this was helpful to you. And thank you for subscribing. For those who have, if you've never done so before, definitely consider it. And keep coming back for my gardening topics. Happy fall gardening. And I do hope to see you in the next one. Take care.